Hello, welcome back to another video. My name is Gemma and today, sorry I had a hair like in my eyeball, and today I am going to be reviewing the first from the Women's Prize for Non-Fiction list that I have read by the Firebee Carrie, The Generation Long Fight for Justice on Native Land by Rebecca Nagle. So I'm a little far behind with filming and uploading my reviews of these, so there may be a bit of a flurry of reviews coming your way. But this was the first one I read and I thought it would be nice to talk to you about it. So as the subtitle sort of indicates, this book is looking at native land and the fight of Indigenous people in the US for the land that is rightfully theirs. And what Nagle does in this is she frames this topic around a sort of pivotal murder case that happened in the 1990s, which effectively led to the Supreme Court re-establishing the rights of Native people to their own land. She then uses that framing to look back in history at how that land was unlawfully and forcibly taken from Native people, and to also look at her own specific family history, her Cherokee history, at people in her ancestry that played a role in the changing of laws back in those days that sort of led to the point in the 90s where Nagle is sort of framing her whole narrative. She also documents the forced sort of roundup and removal of the Muskogee people in the 1930s, which is pretty harrowing to read, and talks about the promises that the US government has made and broken over centuries, effectively. So she looks at both her own ancestors' part in the laws that were established and are established up to this day, and the changing laws, and what impact that has had on Indigenous people. So when I read the premise of this, I thought it sounded really interesting. It's an area of history that I know not so much about, and I think the way that Nagle sort of framed it around this criminal case was really quite clever, because it added a level of contemporariness to what she was saying and sort of allowed her to dip back and forward in history. I also really appreciated that she had a sort of warts and all approach. So there were things that her ancestors had done in the past that she wasn't proud of. There's sort of intersectionality that is quite uncomfortable to uncover for her and to read for a modern reader. But she didn't shy away from that. She sort of exposed everything that she knew and was pretty candid and open about her feelings around that and how it has impacted her life and the way that she's taken things from her family's history and used that to sort of inform her decisions going forward and sort of correct wrongs from the past, I suppose. So all of those things I thought were really great. Unfortunately though, the book overall didn't really work for me. And there are a couple of reasons for that. So firstly, I clearly am not American. So Indigenous history is something that I am not well versed on. Yes, I've read some books by Indigenous authors in the States. I have a sort of broad awareness of some of the issues, but I don't know so much about it. I know that when I was discussing this on one of the plods, that someone said that even in the States people aren't really educated on this area of history, so perhaps even those in the States aren't very versed either. But I found that the learning curve because of that was super steep. To the point where I don't even know some of the tribes' names. I mean, Cherokee I've heard of, obviously Muskogee was new for me, so it was a lot of information to try and absorb and understand in quite a short book. I felt like maybe I needed to be better read on the subject before I picked this one up. I also found that it was super heavy in legal jargon. I mean, Nagle in this book is talking about land law, effectively, which isn't the most interesting of topics. I did study law for a short period at university, but it was mainly criminal law, which is significantly more interesting than land law. But there's a lot of reference to different statutes and the legal system in the US, sorry, with sort of the Supreme Court and different people that play a part in the legal system over there and how it works, and I'm not familiar with that either. I would say I'm also not super familiar with the UK legal system either, so you know, it's not an area I'm super intelligent on. So I found the two things together: the understanding of Indigenous cultures and history, plus the understanding of American statutes and land law together, meant that I was quite bamboozled for quite a lot of this book. And unfortunately, that really disappointed me, because one of the criteria for the Women's Prize for non-fiction is that it's accessible, right? That it's accessible non-fiction, and I didn't really feel like this was. I felt like you really needed to have a good understanding of some of these key topics before you went into this. And so unfortunately I gave it 2.5 stars. That's not to say that this isn't an important topic, of course it is, but it was just too much for my brain, really. I mean, the three criteria for the Women's Prize for Fiction are excellence, originality and accessibility, and I think for excellence this would probably be a 4 out of 5. It was excellently constructed, it was well sort of segued between current and historical topics. It's touching on important themes that are important going forward. So I do, and it was well written. It was well written. Originality wise, I'd give it a 3 out of 5. But accessibility, I'd have to give it 1. I'd have to give it 1 out of 5 for accessibility, because I just felt like it was really too deeply entrenched in its own topics to an advanced level that I don't have. I'm really interested for anyone else that has read it, if they agree, or if it's just me being really stupid. Also, if you can recommend any books on sort of Indigenous history that you would recommend that are more accessible, so that next time a book like this comes up I might be a bit more educated in it, that would be great. But yeah, unfortunately, as the first book out of the blocks on the non-fiction list, this was a bit of a fail for me. Yeah, didn't really like it, and I was pretty disappointed. So yes, however, several of the non-fiction books that were on last year's long list made my absolute best books of the year. So I am not given up yet. If you want to see my best books of 2024, I'll leave it here so you can see which books they were. But I'm sure there are going to be some absolute diamonds in this long list. So I will persevere, and I will let you know when I've read some more. Okay, cheers guys, bye.